Entrepreneurs, graduating students, their proud parents, siblings, all the students of Edii, gracious ladies and gentlemen, my warmest greetings to all of you. At the outset, I extend my heartiest congratulations to the graduating students. It's your day, it's a day of celebration of your success. And I feel privileged to be part of this celebration. I would like to congratulate and thank your parents who stood by you in your endeavor. They must be happy and proud today. I also like to thank and congratulate the faculty members of Edii, the supporting staff, and all those who helped you in acquiring the knowledge, the skill, and the necessary confidence to take on the world. On this auspicious occasion, I like to pay my profound homage and regard to the founders of this beautiful institution who, facing numerous adverse headwinds, conceived and created this nursery of entrepreneurs. They did at a time when private enterprise was not looked at with comfort by the government and the establishment. They did have the courage to create this institution. They deserve all the compliments and congratulations. Friends, you are graduating at a time which is historic, which is epochal, when the country is at the cusp of a comprehensive revolutionary transformation. And a transformation which all of us are witnessing, we are feeling in some way or other, because this is so comprehensive. It unfolds before you umpteen opportunities. I am tempted to say infinite opportunities. It is for you to explore. You are like the eagle, the young one, and your destiny is to soar the sky, measure its depth. The changes, the transformation that we are witnessing today, which began with the coming of a dynamic and visionary national leader, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in 2014, who has brought, people say there is a paradigm shift. It is not a paradigm shift. It's a breaking of the old paradigm and creating a new paradigm. to understand, and you are all smart people. And your smartness lies in gauging the pulse of the time. Because time in which you operate, which you are going to operate, you must understand its nuances comprehensively. And being too close to the event, it's not easy. When you are too close to an event, it's not easy to comprehend the fullness of the transformation, fullness of the changes that are happening. To make it easier for you, let me take you back to the situation before. How do we say that today we are in the phase of comprehensive revolutionary transformation? You know, our country until 200 years ago, until 19th century, was the leader of the world, was the largest economic power. There was no America, there was no Europe. They were nowhere in sight. The nearest rival was China. We accounted for almost 28 to 30% of the global GDP. We were the most advanced in agriculture, in industry. We were the largest exporter of iron and steel, chemicals, textiles, many areas. This country used to be called a golden bird, Sone ki chidiya. We all know that in India we don't have too many gold mines, very few. And yet this country was called the golden bird is only because our capacity to export and earn gold. If you look at the records of history, one or two instances that illustrates how strong it was. I'll take you back to the 1st century BC. In the Roman Council, when the senator, in charge of the finance, presented the budget, and he was concerned about the huge trade deficit with India. And he said, how do we expect our country to develop, Roman Empire, if we have to pay 20 million gold coins to India in lieu of the fashionable textile and garments that we get from it, we import strength. But in the 200 years, this country was destroyed. Our industries were killed. Our agriculture was ruined. Our education system was destroyed. From the world being our market, we became the market. We were pauperized. This country never knew what was food scarcity, what was famine. The first famine this country witnessed was only after it was colonization. When the farmers, for various reasons, heavy taxation, forced cultivation of crops, cash crops like opium and indigo, which was useful for the colonial powers to earn money abroad. We became, and export of food grains to other parts of the empire. We started facing famine. So much so that by the time the British left, they left an extremely poor country in abject poverty, illiteracy, poor health. In every way, we were almost an example of pity. At that point of time, when the national leaders began building this or rebuilding this nation, they adopted a path. The path was socialistic growth of this country. The prevailing environment in this part of the world, in the Asia, was with the rise of communism in Soviet Russia and the victory of Maoist communism in China, and the rest of the part of the Southeast Asia and East Asia was severely afflicted with this virus of communism and socialism. Our people thought that that was the best model to alleviate, to mitigate poverty of our people. And you know, when socialism is the driving principle of growth and development, the means of production comes in the control of the state. The private enterprise, private wealth creation is looked down upon with suspicion. We followed. We started, the state got into the domain of all areas, be it education, be it health, electricity, infrastructure. We kept building schools, colleges, we kept building hospitals, we kept building roads, we kept generating electricity. We also began building institutions of higher learning. We built IITs, we built IIMs. We also forayed into the world. We also began measuring the height and depth of the sky, space, and we also became a credible country in a space, domain of a space. But while we were all achieving this, our country remained home to the largest number of sick, the poor, the illiterate. We remained a country with a dubious distinction of almost 60% of our people going for open defecation. We kept building schools, hospitals, roads, generating electricity. But we kept building in a way that did not address our problem. And even after some 7 decades, we remained a country at the margin of international affairs. A country of nearly 140 crores was nowhere in the reckoning. And because in the socialistic mode of growth, the state having the monopoly of wealth creation and poverty alleviation, this, coupled with the imperatives of populist politics, it also gave birth to a politics of populism. How to win the hearts of the people in large. And when you have a large number of people in the country, we began glorifying the poor, cursing the poverty. At the time when this institution came up, at the time, those who remember, those who were some of the elders one, I was the witness. The government used to have competitive loan melas. You come and take money. We started distributing freebies. This combination of socialism and populism caught the country in a vicious trap. We began distributing wealth without creating wealth. And what did we distribute? We distributed poverty. Some of you might have read about the great man who built Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. A fishing hamlet turned into an envious city-state of the world, an economic powerhouse. The person who transformed was also a very keen observer of India. Not only he, but the rest of the Asian countries were looking at India with a lot of expectation after it became independent. And so was Lee Kuan Yew. He visited this country numerous times, and he perhaps in his lifetime he met all our prime ministers. He was disappointed with India. He was disappointed because of this combination of socialism and populism driving this country, in which we earn 50 paise and start distributing 1 rupee. There was no money for capital creation. There was no money for genuine growth. In fact, when the emergency was imposed on this country, he was also a great admirer of the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And he thought that a leader who was so bold as to impose emergency on such a large country as India could take a bold decision. He came and met her and said, Mr. Prime Minister, Madam Prime Minister, you are the one in which the destiny of this country lies. You take bold decisions. You have to break the mold of this socialism and populism. India deserves a better destiny. The reply that he got utterly disappointed him, because the then Prime Minister told him, no, India is not like that. This is how India can be run. And then he made a forecast that India shall never be an economic power. India can be a military power, but not an economic power. Because in this country, there is no courage in the leaders to take the bold decision to break the mold of socialism and populism. Because through this mode, we created more number of poor people. We created more number of sick and illiterate people. We created larger number of people who were homeless and living in dark because of lack of access of electricity. They didn't have potable drinking waters. The basic ingredients of a healthy citizenship was not available to a larger number of our people. And he thought that was the destiny of this country. Not only that, our country was internally divided. It got divided and subdivided. In this populist politics, it led to creation of more and more identities. In 1951, we had certain number of castes and tribes. By 2011 census, the numbers have gone many times more. New and new castes were created. New and new tribes were created. New and new identities were created. So each one was mobilizing for the share of the political power along its own identity. We also created identities of race, Aryan, Dravidian, different ethnicities. And each one started aspiring for its own homeland, its own place, exclusive from the rest. Forgetting this country, this Bharat was one organic entity. Each one started creating its own identity. And the result was, we had the Northeast in flames, entire Northeast, with 2,000 people dying every year, including nearly 400 security force personnel. We had a problem in Jammu and Kashmir. We had a problem of Maoism. in the heartland. We had regional and sub-regional tensions, south versus north, west versus east, south more developed, north not developed, west developed, east not developed. And even in those states or regions which were developed, there were pockets of deprivation. Even in the states which claimed to be the most progressive and advancing, there were pockets which were where the basic ingredients of citizenship, the basic amenities were denied. They were in the macro level, they presented a very progressive picture, but the fact is within them there were pockets which were not, they were far behind. So tensions of all kinds, ethnic tensions, regional tensions, caste tensions, linguistic tensions, all kinds. And these tensions kept multiplying. The country was almost imploding from within. Much of energy of the country was being absorbed to manage these internal tensions, energy and resources. That was the position. As a result, we were nowhere in the reckoning. And what happened in 2014? The fundamental change that happened was the way we looked at our country. That is the fundamental change. Was this country a geography? Which the British said. British said India is a geography. At the time when the British were leaving India, and they were leaving India, you would not be aware, would not be at least be conscious what kind of India they had left behind. Not only poor and deprived, but within India there were more than 560 independent countries they had left behind. All those princely estates, they had become independent. With the lapse of the British paramountcy in the midnight of 14th or 15th August 1947, they had all become independent countries with a choice to be with India or Pakistan or remain independent. Now imagine, but for Sardar Patel, all of you who are sitting here, it would not have been possible. You would have been all people of different countries holding different passports. That was the country they had left behind. And when they were doing that, and at the time when there was some concern in Britain that will such an India survive, then the Winston Churchill, who hated India, he said, why? India is not a nation. It is a geography. Like equator, you cut into 1,000 pieces, it doesn't make a difference. It is a geographic expression. And people who were at the commanding height of this country after the British left, they carried on with that notion of India as a geography. So people of different regions were looked at as if they were different. People of Assam, Nagaland, people of Jammu and Kashmir, people of Gujarat, people of Tamil Nadu, people of Kerala, people of Bengal. They were all different people. They had little understanding of this country which we call Bharat. And as a result, we kept addressing the issues piecemeal, locality-wise. It was that sense of country as India as a geography that led the countries like China and Pakistan occupy a large part of our territory, and we kept looking the other way. When the Chinese had captured almost 30,000 square kilometers of Aksai chain, and the matter came in Parliament, and they were concerned, the then Prime Minister said, that part is a rocky desert, not a blade of grass grows there. Not a blade of grass grows there. Trying to mitigate the sentiment of the people, of the country. Well, that's not, we don't need to worry too much about it. It was a geography, country as a geography. I remember in that very area in 2020, when the Chinese military made the misadventure We resisted, we pushed them back, and in the process, 20 of our brave hearts, brave soldiers, they gave their life. It was that rocky desert. We didn't look at it as a rocky desert. We look at it as a part of our being. How do you look at your country? In 2014, September, when the Chinese president Xi Jinping was here in Ahmedabad, he was received with all the warmth that India has. Atithi Devo Bhava. But as they did before, whenever a higher level delegation of India went to China or their delegation came to India, Chinese military would move forward and try to capture some territory. And the government of the time would be all the time be busy to see that the event goes off peacefully. Photo opportunity, good photograph, a smile on the faces. And after the event was over, we gave them a piece of paper called the Marsh, a protest letter. But by grabbed the part of the territory. A similar thing happened in September 2014 when our Prime Minister hosted the Chinese president. At that point of time, Chinese military moved in Ladakh, in South Ladakh. When they moved forward, the question was, do we follow the pattern that we had followed all the previous years since 1950s? Keep quiet, let the visit go on. Because Chinese were promising they would invest $100 billion. They make a lot of tall promises. Prime Minister said no. They must be pushed back. Military got a clear instruction. They were pushed back. It showered the visit. Chinese president said, Mr. Prime Minister, this is a small matter. We will resolve it. And what our Prime Minister tells you how the new vision of looking at the country is. He said, no, Mr. President. It's not a small matter. When the tooth aches, the whole body suffers. It is not a small matter. Visit went sour, but we pushed them back. A clear message, the way you look at. That rocky desert is not an sterile part of a geography. Because when the moment you look at a country as a geography, as a territory becomes transactional. No, country is not transactional. Any part of it is not transactional. It is Bharat. Article 1 of the Constitution of India says, India, that is Bharat. And unfortunately, we have not been teaching our people, students, what is Bharat. When India is introduced as Bharat, incorporated in Article 1 of the Constitution, we have done little to tell our students what is Bharat. We kept looking at this country from the perspective of foreigners. And we kept creating problems, more and more problems. We remained trapped in the quagmire of populism and socialism and divisive politics. We didn't realize that in our country, creating wealth was a virtue. In fact, अर्थ, आप जानते हो अर्थ, धर्म, अर्थ, काम, मोक्ष, ये चारों पुरुषार्थ हैं हर व्यक्ति के जीवन में, इन चारों को हासिल करना. अर्थ का उपार्जन ये हमारा पुरुषार्थ है. हमारे धर्मशास्त्र, हमारे नीति शास्त्र सबने इसकी सराहना की है, इसकी तारीफ की है, इसकी आवश्यकता को बताया है. अगर हम नीति शास्त्र में देखें, कौटिल्य के नीति शास्त्र, उन्होंने अर्थ की व्याख्या की है. यस्य अर्था तस्य मित्राणि, यस्य अर्था तस्य बांधवा, यस्य अर्था स पुमान् लोके, यस्य अर्था स च पंडिता. जहां अर्थ है वहां मित्र है, फ्रेंड है. अब फ्रेंड सिर्फ व्यक्तिगत संबंधों में नहीं, राष्ट्र के संबंधों में भी. एक रिच कंट्री को देखियो कितने फ्रेंड होते हैं। पैसे, वेल्थ जनरेट्स फ्रेंडशिप। वेल्थ है तो बांधव रिलेटिव्स, आपके रिलेशंस हैं। अर्थ से संसार चलती है, अर्थ से पांडित्य भी आता है। इवन स्कॉलरशिप इज अट्रैक्टेड बाय द वेल्थ। लुक एट आवर धर्मशास्त्र महाभारत शांति पर्व। इट सेज धर्मस्य कामस्य स्वर्गस्यैव नराधिप प्राण यात्रापि लोकस्य बिना ह्यर्थम न सिद्ध्यते। चाहे वो धर्म की हो या काम की हो या स्वर्ग मोक्ष की हो, यह शरीर प्राण यात्रा, शरीर या दुनिया में दुनियादारी सारे के लिए बिना अर्थ का कुछ संभव नहीं है। तो अर्थ का उपार्जन हमारा पुरुषार्थ है। हमने उसे छोड़कर एक विदेशी आइडियोलॉजी को अपना लिया, जो उस समय चीन और सोवियत रसा में अपनाए गए थे, और इसके प्रोसेस में हमने अपने लोगों की सामर्थ्य को नहीं समझा। और one of the things again, Lee Kuan Yew has said that bureaucracy of this country has utter disdain for private wealth. They are hostile. He used the term, they are hostile. That was our culture. ये हमारी थी। ये हम इतने दूर हो गए थे अपने से, हम क्या थे और किस सोच पर चल पड़े इस नए भारत को बनाने के लिए। और जो परिणाम 2014 के बाद हम देख रहे हैं वो यही कि हम भारत को एक भूगोल नहीं देखते, भारत को एक परिवार मानते हैं। और जब यह परिवार की बात होती है तो आपके परिवार में किसी भी एक सदस्य की समस्या उस सदस्य की समस्या मात्र नहीं रह जाती, यह समस्या पूरे परिवार की होती है। यह नहीं कह सकते कि हमारा परिवार का अगर हमें मेडिसिन देना है तो हम एक को देंगे दूसरे को नहीं देंगे, एक को पढ़ाएंगे दूसरे को नहीं पढ़ाएंगे, ये नहीं कह सकते। समस्या एक की नहीं बल्कि पूरे परिवार की समस्या है। तो ये जो दृष्टिकोण भारत के प्रति कि भारत एक परिवार है, इसमें इसकी विविधताएं जो हैं, जो डाइवर्सिटी है, वह भिन्नता नहीं है, यह विविधता है। आपने गौर से देखा होगा वृक्षों को, बड़े बड़े वृक्षों में लाखों मिलियन लीव्स होते हैं, पत्ते होते हैं, कोई दो पत्ते एक तरह के नहीं होते। लेकिन उस पेड़ वृक्ष के बाहर उस पत्तों का कोई वजूद नहीं है। एक फूल में सैकड़ों पेटल्स होते हैं, हर पेटल अकेला यूनिक होता है, लेकिन उस फूल के बाहर उस पेटल की कोई वजूद नहीं होता। इस विविधता को भिन्नता के रूप में देखते देखते हमने देश को कमजोर किया। देश की जो शक्ति थी उसे कमजोर किया, उसकी सृजन शक्ति को हमने तोड़ा। और आज का प्रयास, जब प्रधानमंत्री कहते हैं सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका प्रयास, ये सबके प्रयास से ही ये संभव है। और जब हम सबके प्रयास की बात करते हैं तो हमारे लोगों में, हमारे यंग मेन एंड वुमेन में, युवा वर्ग में जो छिपी हुई क्षमता है, उस क्षमता को आगे लाने के उनके अंदर साहस होनी चाहिए। और हमारी ये जिम्मेवारी बनती है कि एक ऐसा इकोसिस्टम, एक वातावरण तैयार करें जहां वो अपनी क्षमता लेकर आगे बढ़ें। और हम आज देख रहे हैं, एक समय था जब हम कहते थे भारत कभी भी इकोनॉमिक पावर नहीं बन सकती। हमारे विद्वान, हमारे स्कॉलर्स, इकोनॉमिस्ट कहने लगे थे, दे हैड क्रिएटेड ए फ्रेज, मेनी ऑफ यू माइट बी अवेयर ऑफ इट, दोज ऑफ यू हैव स्टडीड इकोनॉमिक्स शुड बी ऑफ कोर्स नोइंग इट। दे सेड इंडिया विल ग्रो एट द हिंदू रेट ऑफ ग्रोथ। This is how you will grow, slowly, slowly. You will never grow. Today, India is the fastest growing economy of the world. क्या हो गया? आज से 8 साल पहले, 9 साल पहले इस देश में कितने स्टार्टअप थे? 500 भी नहीं, लगभग 400 के करीब। और आज हमारे देश में 1 लाख से ऊपर स्टार्टअप हो गए। ये किसने किया? ये आप लोगों ने किया, ये हमारी युवा शक्ति ने किया। आवर यंग एंटरप्राइजिंग यंग मेन एंड वुमेन हैव डन इट। ये सरकार ने नहीं किया है, यह हमारे देश के लोगों ने किया है, हमारे देश के युवाओं ने किया है। आज हम दुनिया के 3 बड़े स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम में हमारी गिनती होती है। हमारी अर्थव्यवस्था हमारी आज 5वीं है और हमें विश्वास, हमारे कॉन्फिडेंस है कि अगले कुछ वर्षों में हम टॉप के 3 में आ जाएंगे। यह कहां से संभव हो रहा है? यह गवर्नमेंट से, स्टेट से संभव नहीं होती। जब तक हम पुराने मोड में रहे तब तक स्टेट और लोगों के बीच का जो संबंध था वह एक पेट्रन और क्लाइंट की संबंध थी। सारी चीज़ों के लिए हम सरकार की ओर देखते थे। हमें स्कूल बना दो, हमें बिजली थोड़ा दे दो, हमें अस्पताल बना दो। हमारी क्रिएटिव एनर्जी, क्रिएटिव पावर बिल्कुल मर चुकी थी, उसे मार दिया गया था। आज वही क्रिएटिव पावर पुनः हमें उस दिशा में ले जा रही है जहां हम जाना हमारा नियति है। आज दुनिया का, वी आर द वर्ल्ड मोस्ट डिजिटलाइज्ड कंट्री इन द वर्ल्ड। लोग कहते थे कि ये पढ़ा लिखा नहीं, गांव में है, वो कैसे, क्या डिजिटल की बातें आप करते हो तो गया। आज रेवड़ी रोड साइड में जो वेंडर है वो भी आपको डिजिटल पेमेंट एक्सेप्ट करता है। नंबर ऑफ डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शन, फाइनेंशियल ट्रांजैक्शन, नंबर ऑफ ट्रांजैक्शन, वी अकाउंट फॉर ऑलमोस्ट 40% ऑफ द ग्लोबल ट्रांजैक्शंस। दिस इज न्यू इंडिया, दिस इज इमर्जिंग न्यू इंडिया। हर एक फील्ड में जब वैश्विक चुनौतियां जो हैं आज के विश्व के सामने, बड़ी सारी चुनौतियां हैं। द वर्ल्ड इज स्टेयरिंग एट न्यूमरस एग्जिस्टेंशियल क्राइसिस, be it climate crisis. We all know that how the warming, the global warming, in the next couple of decades, many of the island countries will be wiped off the map of the earth because they will all be submerged. We know how the glaciers are melting, so solar ice caps are receding, rivers are drying up, forests are dwindling. Because we the world looked at this resources of the earth as a resource. There was a worldview, the Western worldview, that humans are at the center of creation. So rest all is for our pleasure. And we went into that circle in which we kept exploiting the resources as resources and kept facing the problem. And when the world realized, it is India which is showing the way by moving away from the carbon-based energy source. Today, we have already achieved 40% of our fuels non-carbon. No country, no large country has done it. We have done it. Because this is our world view. We do not look at the nature, the environment as a resource. We look at ourselves not as the master of the nature. We look at ourselves as one of the elements, and we need to live in harmony with them. And as a result, we in our tradition, before we got into this Western mode of looking at the world, nobody cut a tree unless it was very much needed. And when they cut the tree, they worshipped the tree and sought forgiveness. It was not a resource. We looked at the river as divine. And that is what we reflect in all our day-to-day prayers. The prayers which every household, when you do on every auspicious occasion, we worship the rivers. And some of you, those who remember or might have heard, faintly remember, you will remember the sloka which, or mantra that we say, Ganga cha Yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmada Sindhu Kaveri Jale Yasmin Samnadhim Kuru. एक तरफ सिंधु लद्दाख में और कावेरी तमिलनाडु में, हमने सबको पूरा भारत हमारे डे टू डे रोजमर्रे की जिंदगी में, जब हम किसी भूमि पूजन करते हैं तो उस भूमि की जब पूजा करते हैं तो यह नहीं कहते कि यह भूमि कोई अलग है, हम उसकी शुरुआत करते हैं आर्यावर्ते भरतखंडे, और उसमें आकर के हम उस ग्राम, उस जगह की चर्चा करते हैं। यह जगह जम्बूद्वीप भरतखंड का एक पार्ट है, यह हमारे संस्कार में, हम उसे भूल चुके थे और परिणाम था कि हम गलत दिशा में जा रहे थे। Today we have moved and we are moving forward with incredible self-confidence and clarity. The clarity about our objective, our goal. And what is our goal? The goal is that in 2047, when the country would be celebrating the centenary of independence, India must be a fully developed country. And when we say fully developed country, it is not just mere material growth. When we say fully developed country, it is the country which Swami Vivekananda had imagined. A country, a Bharat, जिसकी मांसपेशियां लोहे की हो, जिसकी धमनियां स्टील की हो, लेकिन जिसका हृदय और मस्तिष्क वेदांतिक हो, कंपैशनेट हो, वसुधैव कुटुंबकम। इसलिए हमारे प्रार्थनाओं में वैदिक टाइम से हमारी जो प्रार्थनाएं चली आ रही है, कभी हमने लिए नहीं मांगा। हमारी प्रार्थनाओं में, वैदिक प्रार्थनाओं में क्या हम कहते हैं? हम प्रभु से, ईश्वर से क्या कहते हैं? सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःख भाग् भवेत्। सबकी, सारे जीव, मनुष्य मात्र नहीं, सारे जीव, प्लांट, एनिमल, सब सुखी रहें, सब निरोग रहें, सब स्वस्थ रहें, सब एक दूसरे में भद्रता देखें, अच्छाई देखें, ये सज्जन शक्ति देखें, ये सज्जनता को देखें, oneness in this entire stunning diverse creation. जब हम पुनः नए भारत की बात करते हैं तो इस भारत की बात करते हैं जहां हम आर्थिक रूप से, वैज्ञानिक रूप से, तकनीकी रूप से, औद्योगिकी के रूप में हम आगे रहेंगे, साथ ही साथ हम अपने संस्कार के साथ कि पूरा विश्व एक परिवार है। और इसीलिए जब भारत की जब राइज होती है तो दुनिया में चिंता नहीं बनती। अब कुछ मुल्कों की है वो दूसरी बात है, उनकी अपनी समस्या है, पूरा विश्व में नहीं है। आप देखोगे जब पिछली शताब्दी में जब अमेरिका और सोवियत की राइज हुआ तो दोनों ने अपने अपने आइडियोलॉजी के प्रमोशन में कितने नरसंहार किए। वन वाज प्रमोटिंग कैपिटलिज्म and so their brand of democracy, other was communism and socialism, and there were millions of people suffered. When China rose, initially there was expectation that perhaps it would be a peaceful rise, but within no time world realized that this rise is to the detriment of others. We have seen how our neighbor, example Sri Lanka, got into the date trap. They made them invest in creating infrastructures which were non-productive, not needed, and they were not able to repay, they got into debt trap. Militarily, they turned the South China Sea an international